Hi everyone, my name is Antionette Carroll. I am the founder, president, and CEO of Creative Reaction Lab, and I'm here with Design Milk for DMTV Milkshake. So let's go ahead and check out some of the questions that we have. All right, here's hoping that I know the answers. First question, what questions can individuals ask themselves when evaluating how well they are doing at holding themselves accountable for systemic racism and supporting Black designers? So this is a very large question, and I would actually recommend breaking that down into two parts. Questions you would ask yourself around systemic racism and questions you would ask yourself around supporting Black designers. Because with systemic racism, one of the things we first need to ask ourselves is, what are some of the things that I've learned in my life, some of the experiences I've had, some of the biases I've been taught, the socializations I received that have led to me actually having, honestly, thoughts that perpetuate racism. And there tends to be this mentality that that you either are racist or you're not. But the reality is that we've all drunk from the same faucet of white supremacy and, honestly, from colonization mindsets. And racism is something that's steeped deep into our culture. And so the questions you need to start asking yourself is, one, what am I actually doing around challenging racism in my personal life, in my family, in my job, within my geographic community? Also, what role am I playing in actually upholding some racist systems? What did I unlearn this month? What did I unlearn honestly this year, and what do I plan to unlearn? Because the kind of challenging systemic racism is a journey. And also, when it comes to supporting Black designers, part of it is also recognizing, should I be the one speaking? Should I actually be the one on this project, in this room? And how do I leverage my power and access, if I have it, to actually include individuals that are in closer proximity to many of kind of the real world realities of, I would argue, Black folks. But Black people don't only, like, Black designers can't only design for Black folks. Like, let's challenge that mentality right now. Black designers should not only be invited as a part of a quota, which, doesn't really exist if we kind of change that. Really thinking about, how do we bring in more individuals that honestly just make our teams better and make our designs better and center more perspectives. And if they're not here, what am I going to do to actually challenge that? All right, so next question. I'm gonna pick a big one because apparently the small slips have long questions on them. So here's hoping this tells me something I can say yes or no. During your panel discussion at the recent Where Are the Black Designers conference, you brought up some great points about how the word diversity is often used as a blanket term that can discourage accountability and action. Can you elaborate on why it's dangerous to only use blanket terms like diversity when seeking change in an institution? Well, first off, the reality is that, excuse me for my throat, because I didn't drink any water prior to this, but we're going to keep it going. The reality is that the term diversity is just a variety of characteristics and identifiers. And so when I say diversity is usually used as a blanket term, I'm asking people, what identities are you saying are not being represented here, and how do you make sure you center that? And be explicit. So if you're talking about lack of racial diversity when it comes to Black, Latinx, and Indigenous communities, then say that we need more racial diversity when it comes to Black, Latinx, and Indigenous communities, opposed to just saying diversity. If you're saying we need more gender identity representation, I would even argue for you to really dive deep and unpack, what do you mean by that? Does that include non-binary folks? Does that include trans folks? Does that include genderqueer folks? And really questioning, what do I mean when I say diversity? And holding ourselves accountable to that. Because when we just say, oh, we need more diversity, well, honestly, you can have a room full of all white men and still have diversity, because they could have came from different geographic backgrounds, they could have came from different economic backgrounds, they could have different ability status, and those are different identities and characteristics that we have. And so we need to be more explicit when we are saying we need more diversity, and honestly, It's the same when we even say we need inclusion or we need equity, because you can be inclusive in one way and exclusive in another. You can strive for equity for one community, but honestly perpetuate inequity for another community. And so definitely be more specific when you are saying we need more representation or we need to build more inclusive and equitable communities. Okay, now on the last question. I'm gonna go with this thin one with hopes that it ends with a bang. Let's see. What are redesigners for justice? What is their role and how can you become one? So at Creative Reaction Lab, we tend to say that all systems are by design. That means systems of oppression, inequality, and inequity are by design. But that means that they also can be redesigned. And so we're working to build a movement of what we're calling redesigners for justice, a new type of civic leader that really is holding themselves accountable to addressing these systemic ills that we have. And so redesigners for justice are individuals that put people and equity first. They're embedded in the community they're working to change, because then they're actually affected by the outcomes. They're constantly iterating, making, and improving upon interventions and understanding that perfectionism is a form of white supremacy and how we need to let that go. They also are making sure that they are building upon existing resources, because our communities, and that includes our institutions, that includes our geographic communities, are not blank canvases. And we need to recognize that there are people that have probably been doing this work for decades, definitely for years, and we should be collaborating and partnering together. And then lastly, these are also individuals that either, if they have direct connection to the inequity they're addressing, they have that living expertise, or if they don't have the direct connection, then they leverage their power and access on the individuals that do, and make sure that you center them. And so becoming a redesigner for justice is really asking, should I be the one centering my lived experience and being a part of the action accountability that way? Or should I be the one that's actually taking a step back and centering someone else that's a living expert and really amplifying their thoughts, their work, and honestly getting them paid just like you're probably getting paid at the same time. So thank you so much for being with me. I'm excited that Design Milk invited me to participate in this, and so I hope you all have a great day and continue to work to be redesigners for justice.